close into the late day trade. Let's bring in Charles Moon, the senior market strategist of equities at Prosper Trading Academy. Charles is joining us this afternoon. Thanks for giving us part of yours, Charles. Good to have you back. Let's talk Apple. First and foremost, lower on the news that they're going to have to loosen restrictions on software developers who build programs for their mobile devices.
Yeah, the ruling was actually largely in favor for Apple. It basically came to the judge saying count 10 is where they find Apple liable or at fault. So Apple obviously had tumbled pretty hard, came into a great demand zone. It's actually holding the lows for now. Obviously, this market is pulling back, so we'll see possibly that test of the lows. But for me, historically, when Apple makes these larger than normal drops, we usually see the stock rebound very quickly because retail investors start jumping in. That originally may have missed out on the move for Apple, and they're like, well, we're not going to miss out on this time. So, I actually like Apple all the way down to 144. They're just floating above their 50-day moving average right now. And with the upcoming event coming on the 14th, the interesting aspect is the news that's going to come out, not so much for the iPhone. I'm not expecting too much for the iPhone. Okay. I don't think, from the 12 to 13 is going to be much of a transition. It's really going to be towards the wearables and services.
Tends to be, it seems like more and more so every time around. And I can see what you're talking about in terms of the 144 level, kind of coincides with the lower extremes that we saw back in the beginning to middle of July. We held around that level, and then also back in August, we retested that lower level. Sharp move to the downside here. And I also hear what you're saying in terms of, this potentially being a buying opportunity because, there's going to be appeals on this one as well, I'd imagine.
Yeah, Apple did come out and say they're not sure they're going to appeal yet. Okay. I guess it just depends on what the overall legal team says. I think it ended up that Apple got Epic to pay them $3.5 million or something like that as well in the judgment. So it's not like Apple truly lost out, but because of the news, it could open up the venue of the improprieties of what they're doing with their app store. And in turn, we saw a lot of stocks just really start screaming to the upside. A lot of the video game makers started jumping up. RBLX, Roblox went on a huge run. Company that's not really talked about, it's a great momentum name, AppLovin. That was screaming to the upside. That was about a 6-point move in about 15 minutes. So we're seeing some really responsive reactions in stocks that are starting to temper out a bit. And that's really what we're seeing in Apple as well. So, even with this news surrounding Apple, there's other things to like in regards to where Apple could really offset maybe some of the issues they have with their iPhone store, and a lot of that really ties to wearables and services for me.
I like that, Charles, in terms of the other side of the coin, as far as some companies that are benefiting from the news, or stand to benefit, I should say, and so some optimism tied to. Now, still some dust to settle from this one. I want to point out some comments from the judge. He said that the court does not find that Apple is an antitrust monopolist in the sub-market for mobile gaming transactions. Went on to say, however, it does find that Apple's conduct in enforcing anti-steering restrictions is anti-competitive. So something to keep an eye on here as the dust settles. Again, we'll watch this into next week. How about Zscaler, or ticker symbol ZS, on earnings taking a hit as well? We're talking down in the day, about 3% here, just under that right now, 2.75%. Initially higher after the quarter results, but lower into this late day trade. EPS at 14 cents a share, revenue 197.1 million. Charles, what are you watching in terms of ZS?
Yeah, ZS and CrowdStrike, very similar in terms of follow through after earnings. It's kind of one of those, these stocks got ahead of themselves prior to earnings, and it was more of the priced in event, right? The news was priced in. Zscaler's numbers were great, and their guidance was really strong. Analysts love them. They got a slew of price target bumps today, and reiteration of buy ratings. There's some very favorable comments, slightly weak on the day as well. But, again, I think a lot of that is a byproduct of the stock making a big move starting from Palo Alto's earnings report, where CrowdStrike had moved ahead, and CrowdStrike's movement similar after earnings as well. So I just think this is a slight risk-off event. I think this is going to be a great buying opportunity if it does move a little bit lower. And again, their reiteration, not reiteration, but their guidance set forth much better than expected. Much way above analyst estimates. And so, they're saying the growth story is still in play. We're not over yet. And we actually surprised Wall Street in terms of their numbers. And that's why this event, just being a risk-off event, is going to turn into, in my opinion, a great buying opportunity. Ideally, if it does pull back to around that 255 range, and they hold that kind of gap bar up, that's going to be possibly a floor level. Otherwise, I would look for that gap to be filled and then that reversal from there.
That gap bar up, you just mentioned, the 24th of August, I'm looking at it here right now, and then they ran up 8 days in a row, it looks like, positive up to 293.44 before coming off, if lower today, 4 days in a row. So I can see what you're talking about in terms of pricing some of that in. Real quick, I saw some news related to UPS, and they were up around 2.25% after announcing they're going to buy the delivery platform Roadie for an undisclosed sum. What do you see there?
Yeah, so, UPS here has held that 188 to like 190-ish range here over the last month and a half. Every time they kind of pull back towards this range, we've seen buyers come in. And, this is really big in terms of news because this makes them a little bit more competitive with, obviously their biggest competitor, which is Amazon. Amazon offering same-day delivery. Even Walmart is taking that step. UPS, everybody was wondering if they were going to make that move, if FedEx is going to make that move. And, this kind of just allows UPS to transition to that a little bit quicker. So, while they have to pay a little bit now, they're going to make a lot more later. And truth be told, it may hurt their margins slightly in the near term, but, their margin aspect is going to grow because their business is going to grow. And frankly, I actually like UPS over FedEx at this moment right now. And I think this is going to be possibly a catalyst to launch UPS here in the near term, to at least knock on the door of 200. And if it can get above, we could see a potential breakout here.
All right, I've got UPS currently trading hold on one second, I actually have a mistake here in terms of punching up the symbol, but holding right around this 193 level in a range, and I see what you're talking about in terms of the gap up that we saw in reaction to earnings. That was back in the beginning of April. Since then, they've struggled to regain that 219 level, but watch this one. A bit of a choppy trade recently. Charles, really appreciate you sharing part of your Friday afternoon with us. A great breakdown in terms of a few stocks you've got your eye on and think we should as well. Some new stocks that are making news this afternoon and this Friday into the late day trade. Charles Moon is the senior market strategist of equities at Prosper Trading Academy. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, my chart of the day.